All right, welcome to the part two, I believe this is, of Mr. 2 interview. This title of the chapter, before we move on to the next one, was quote unquote the director letter that invited hardship and difficulties. The quote unquote lack of decisive decision. So interviewer asks, I have one more question. Within now 10th year anniversary coming around at FGO, can you talk about the director letter that you gave us twice? The sheer fact within the near year, there was quite the abundant amount of this incident. So close back to back like that was quite rare for you all to see. Can you talk about it within your capability of availability? If so, any information about that director letter, please. Where did I go? I lost. There we go. I'm zoomed in, ready to go. Sorry about that. Trying to do something here. So, Mr. 2 answers in one word or one sentence in English. Essentially, he says lack of attentiveness, right? Lack of attentiveness or being careful, right? Was definitely the easiest way to sum up that problem. It says he understands that公表をこの場でお伝えするのには後出しのように感じるので控えさせて後出ししているように感じるので控えさせてさえておきたければと思いますが So it's essentially, he says, if I were to give you the detailed idea, right, the detailed ideas in this location, it would be not fair because I would practically be adding additional information to justify my reasoning. So he's not going to explain it fully, but to simplify it, it was lack of Mr. 2's attentiveness and carefulness. He was not fully understanding that by adding the new gimmick, right, the 2 appends, the problem that would occur and when that problem were to occur, give the solution to that said problem to counteract when it occur. And simultaneously not being able to immediately release the counter, essentially the counter. It's essentially Mr. 2 is saying the fact that my attentiveness and carefulness was his fault. The fact that he added 2 appends, the new 2 gimmick shenanigans, the problems that would have occurred, and the way he could have solved it, he was not able to do it on time or as quickly as he could. And simultaneously, the decision and lack of additional thought to it. It says, yeah, その問題とその問題を解消するための対応が極限同じタイミングでリリースできなくなった時の判断や思考不足、また皆様へのこの対応をどれだけ行うのかのメッセージをきちんと誤解なく伝わる文章になっているかどうかの確認など様々な部分で考えが至らなかったことが原因ですね。So essentially he's saying it here that he was not able to, the fact that he wasn't able to come up with it and the able to message the user base of how he can compensate to this to an extent, or able to counteract slash able to react, right? He most likely saying that the fact that he is he wanted to make sure that the user base understood what they were doing and there was no mistake to it, and there he wanted to make sure that the message he wrote was something that was not going to cause additional turmoil, right? No additional misunderstanding. But he sometimes specifically saying that he did not think thoroughly and he did not decide things appropriately when the problem occurred by adding additional appends. And the interviewer specifically says, I know this was a hard question for you to answer, so thank you very much for you to give us an answer. By the way, will we ever get an additional materials needed utilizing serving coin? So it says here, 今後サーバントコインの追加で要求されることはありますか? It says here, 今後サーバントコインの追加で要求されることはありますか? Yeah, so is there any more things that might require serving coins? Mr. 2 specifically says, no, there isn't. So make sure you use everything you have. It says ありません。なので、入手できたものは全て使っていただいて問題ないです。It says there isn't. So meaning that Mr. 2 says you no longer need to hoard your serving coin on JP server, because there shouldn't be additional shenanigans that require a serving coin. And then the New Year Eve Bell event and April Fool 10th year event overview. So the interviewer specifically asked, when did the concept of doing 2 Christmas come aboard during the 9th year? Mr. 2 specifically answers, during around early of that year, or I suppose just a little bit earlier, before the beginning of the 9th year. I can't really tell you the exact timing, but during this earlier stage of the timing, we wanted to give additional short-term event behind a Christmas event. Mr. Nasu specifically said it's just an additional thing when it comes to a scenario gimmick. And that's all I've heard. And because that's all I heard, I didn't really think about it too much. And add it to the schedule line, right? The schedule line of this year is what I remember. それが年内にあってあの鐘を叩き続けるイベントだったと。一応アフタークリスマスとタイトルは入っているんですか? It says, yeah, and then at the end of the year, we kept banging that bell, an event that was quite soundful. Mr. 2 answers, after all, the title has specifically stated after Christmas. But Mr. Nasu specifically says, by the way, it's an event for the New Year, pre-New Year bell, right? A pre-New Year bell, by the way. And then once he told us that, I understood the gimmick and said, okay. So if you guys don't know, they're specifically talking about Christmas. The 9th year Christmas. After Abigail's event, we did have a Phantasm Moon event, which was a Neko Arc Bell raid event. So essentially every every new pre-new year, right, before we celebrate the new year of 2025, right, this is for this year, Japan would have a custom occasion of live broadcasting or going to IRL to these specific locations where they will ring a large bell, I believe like 99 times, I believe. And then the 100th one on the new year. I if I remember, it was 99 times. I could be wrong. If I am wrong, it is what it is. But they essentially, they rung the bell and then they would ring one last time to celebrate the New Year's. So that's why when Mr. 2 asked, Nasu goes, by the way, it's a pre-anniversary bell ring event. And then I understood right away. The interviewer says, wow, aren't you a little too easy to let that slide? It says FGO circumstances and workshops are always like this, parentheses, lol. It was, we had the feeling of we're going to ring the bell, right? The specific bell before the New Year's. And that was kind of it. It says we had the bell of just constantly ringing out the bell during a raid boss gimmick event to celebrate New Year's. I thought it was an enjoyable event, so that's why it kind of happened. And then, the interviewer asked, but that was the end of the year. Wasn't that a rough thing for you all to get through and finish? It says, there was additional load, right? AKA amount of additional, AKA they've updated the raid, so they added more numbers to it, obviously. And then Mr. 2 specifically, yes, it was quite difficult. Server bug-wise, as well as whenever it comes to raid boss, we always had to come to the solution of adding additional numbers to it while the raid is occurring. But we needed to adjust the amount. We also needed to adjust the amount of additional reinforcements so we do not have leftovers when the timer goes out. It says I definitely were dead eye, right? AKA I was staring at the quote unquote the amount of count that we had, and I was calculating and recalculating the amount of additional raid bosses we were going to apply. So yes, it was quite the very busy end of the year. It says the behind the scenes of the end of the year special shenanigans. I did not know there was a very secretive and lucrative and very constructive calculation occurring in the backline. Speaking of which, I believe we do not have a Grail War this year. Is that correct? Right, it's essentially saying we haven't gotten a Grail War yet, right? Grail Front, excuse me. I say Grail War, but you get what I mean. Grail Front. It says, this year we never had a Grail Front, did we? Mr. 2 answers, yes, because we are preparing for the final chapter. We also had to make the Grand Duel as well. So we never really were able to slide any Grail Fronts in the 10th year. I do understand that while playing FGO, it is one of the unique fun gimmicks. But after the final chapter, we are going to try to adjust or do things so that we can play more later. However, next time, I would like somebody else to inherit the AI adjustments, though. And then the interviewer specifically asks, are you saying, Mr. 2, that every Grail Front up till now, that Mr. 2, you were in charge of the AI development and setup? Mr. 2 specifically goes, yes. whenever I was a student, I was in study when it came to AI, and I was in a class and I graduated from it. I enjoy the topic and the concept of AI, and conversating that is one of my few hobbies. And because of that relationship from the very first event, I was the one who created of the AI. I was in from the very first of the event, I was in charge of the AI development. However, when I made it for the very first time, unfortunately, due to my lack of knowledge, it became a chaser event due to the lack of script that I could not input. Due to the fact that I was not able to restrict or modify the movement patterns specifically. Master が直接攻撃をするのが手数選定になっていましたね。And then the interviewer asked, that is correct. I do remember at the beginning of the Grail front, using your master to directly attack was one of the best methods after all. It says, afterwards, I've added additional scripts and mixed it together, and the culmination of what happened and the evolution was the Grail front, aka the Heavenly Castle, and the Dark Castle, right? The Heavenly, like daytime castle, nighttime castle, AI. What I really wanted to perform was those type of AIs, and so I was really glad, but it sure did took a long time to do it. It's essentially the ideal AI that Mr. 2 wanted to do was in the Preto-Meiosis event. That is what he wanted to do as an AI. However, it took a long time pulling it off. It says, I agree, but AI getting way too strong. I don't know. Not however. It says, the fact that the AI got stronger and stronger and more difficult, it was quite enjoyable. I've had my share of experience of enjoyment, says the interviewer. But Mr. 2 specifically says, however, of course, we cannot make it so strong or too strong. After all, because if they are too strong, it's not going to be fun. And so to adjust that the salt plum adjustment is very difficult, I might add. Because whenever you're adding AI, you have to put everything in balance, and balance means a lot of things as well in mind before implementing it. We don't want just automatic AI assumptions. 思考自体が凡庸的にあらゆる条件の綱渡をできるようにしなくてはいけない。It says the thought process and conclusion finding has to be very useful but humanoid-esque, yet so convoluted and not completely straightforward. It needs to clear a quite the rope knot worth of criterias in order for it to feel just. It says whether to go all out or go all defense inside the AI's thought process of seesaw within its program, adjusting that definitely takes the most of its time. もはや芸人術で芸術品で術人芸ですね、aka 職人芸ですね。So it says it's almost as a work of an artist. And then Mr. 2 specifically goes, そういうことを遺伝子していかなければいけないんですよね。資料も作ってはいるのですが、次の聖杯戦線では誰かに託したいです。It says, you have to learn these tricks and tips and these nooks and crannies and method in order to make it successful as it was last time. I've got the materials and I've got the quote unquote, I've got the materials and quote unquote items needed. And so the next Grail front, I would like to entrust it to someone else. So Mr. 2 don't want to do Grail front no more. He enjoyed it and he created his fun piece. And now he said somebody else can take it over. The blueprint is there, right? What about the Indra's Great Trial, aka the Gacha, the Lotto event? The new item, the Broken Sky. Yeah, the new item, specifically the box, right? The golden box that came out of nowhere. It says, will there be additional materials that will be able to obtain them through events like this, perhaps? So the interviewer is asking, are we going to get more mats that is going to be event exclusive, or are we going to get more mats when more event comes in? Event でというより、大会先生で取れる新しいアイテムがあった方がいいなと思って追加したようなイメージですね。もちろん大会先生のみでもなく、イベント報酬などもできるようにする予定です。It says, Mr. 2 specifically answers, to be honest, we wanted not in the event specifically, but we wanted a new item able to be obtained in the Grand Duel battle. That was kind of the reasoning and the images, and added that material because, of course, please do understand that you are able to obtain this item not just from the Grand Duel battles, but the other events, other events as a reward structure that is to be planned. Specifically says, speaking of rewards, the Grow My Little Dragon, specifically the Chibine, right? The Chibine that we were able to specifically customize in the growth and given the reward as a craft essence of what you've created. That was a really cool gimmick. What sort of surprises, or how did it end up making this experience come to fruition? これはですね、ライターさんのプロット展開からありました。その時点でもう33333で81パターンがあることも決まっていましたしね。大変でしたが、なんとか実装しました。It says this was due to the writer's plot. プロット。Yeah, the writer's plot already had that included. At that very moment, we already had a 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 pattern, equating roughly about 81 patterns in total preset. It was a very difficult task to do, but we were able to pull it off. 自分で育てたチビーネが手元に残ってくれて非常に嬉しかったです。あとイベントはとは少しになるのですが、今回のエイプルフールアプリタイトルにファイナルという文字があったのですが、もしかして。So it says, the interviewer specifically says, the fact that we were able to hold our own Chibine that we grew and left a print of it is very ecstatically exciting. And this will be a little bit diverted from the event topic, but this year's April Fool application title said this questionable word final. What does that mean exactly? Does that mean ... Mr. 2 specifically says yes. It says that is an April Fool application final. あれが April Fool アプリファイナルです。So that is the final application of April Fools. Or Mr. Tube's being cheeky in saying this is an April Fool app that has final to it, right? はい、あれが April Fool アプリファイナルです。So it says, yes, that is an April Fool app final. And then interviewer goes, oh, I see. It says, it's been 10 years, and we're finally able to get to the finale. It says, looking back the 10 years, we were constantly making different apps. And Miss Rio, or Mr. Rio, was drawing quite the amount of illustrations. It was awesome. And then the interviewer goes, now that you've mentioned this artist, when it comes to new servants, there is no Rio's actual image, right? AKA, where's the picture of the author or the artist, right? 新サーバントにはリオさんの立ち絵がないという部分です。これについてはどうでしょう? And then he's also asking, when it comes to the new servants, right? Like Olga Murray, right? Olga Murray and other new servants that is to come. We currently don't have Rio picture for them, right? For the new servants that is to come. Is there no picture for them? What do you think about that? And Mr. 2 says, I hope they do come, parentheses, lol. So that concludes the quote-unquote event slash, whatchamacallit? Event slash, 10th year, you know, looking through events and whatnot. It's pretty cool that Mr. 2 was apparently the sole in charge of AI creation for the entire Grill front. Simultaneously, it is interesting of how Mr. 2 worded that final quote-unquote April Fool's app. We actually don't know till next year, right? Because the way the interviewer asked is also vague as fuck on top of Mr. 2's vague as fuck. Saying that this year's April Fool application title had a final in its letters, right? In its title, letters. Does that mean ... Then Mr. 2 goes, yes, that, right? あれが April Fool アプリファイナルです. So that is the April Fool application final. Or if I read it backwards, it'll be final April Fool application. And then interviewer goes, oh, I see. Right? And then Mr. 2 specifically says, yeah, we finally were able to make it up to 10 year, and we're now at the final. It says, yeah, we were constantly making apps within these 10 years, and it was quite fun. And Mr. Rio was drawing quite the abundant amount of illustrations. And then last but not least, kind of ask what happens to the new servants that were to come, right? What's going to happen to them? Are we going to get a real version of that? And it says, I hope so. And then parentheses, lol. So, kind of shady. We don't know exactly, right? It's the classic, you better find out next year smile, right? Could be the end, could not be the end. Let me know in the comments section below. What do you think that really means? And I'll see you in the next video. Peace.